made it. This is the Dustin Box Podcast. Thank you for dropping in today. Today's guest is Joe Choi. He is an absolutely amazing guy. Him and his wife are missionaries to Japan right now. But he's also an incredible singer-songwriter, an amazing worship leader. He has several albums out there. You can look him up online. He's written music with Bethel Church in Redding and United Pursuit. He's absolutely amazing. Today's podcast is pretty long, so to kind of help you out, the first half is it kind of starts off early in the morning for him. It was 5 a.m. in the morning, his time. But we basically just talk about Japan, missionary life, how things are going out there. If that doesn't interest you, I'd encourage you can jump to the 50-minute mark, and that's where we get into, pursuing dreams, writing music, musical influences, worship leading and songwriting. And Joe kind of opens up about his process with all of that, and it was super fun. It was such a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed myself. I miss him and his wife terribly. They're good friends of mine. So I hope you enjoy. Here we go.
Okay.
Hey, we're here with Joe Choi, who is a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. But right now he's a singer-songwriter, worship leader, an incredible musician, and he is now a missionary in Japan. Is that right, Joe?
Yep.
Awesome.
You forgot heavy breather in case. I apologize in advance if you hear heavy breathing.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's awesome.
I'm working on my cardio, so hopefully it's a little bit better.
Right now, you're what time is it? You're in Japan right now. We're doing this over Facebook video, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. over here.
5 a.m. Jeez, thanks for getting out of bed so early.
No, it's all good. I usually get up at this time, so it's no problem, man. It's an honor. It's so good to see you too.
You too, man. You too. Hey, can you just fill us in a little bit? There's a bit of an echo.
Oh, really?
I'm hearing. Let me just see if let me just try this. You're using headphones, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a little better.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was reflecting off of the floor here.
Okay. Hey, what are you doing in Japan right now? Because I know obviously you went over there as missionaries, you and your wife, and you have 2 girls. And but what are you guys doing right now? Because you mentioned earlier that you have work a little bit later. So
yeah. So we're both working full time at a school here, and it's a Christian it's a Christian.
Why are you laughing? Why is this funny?
Oh, that was just an epic coffee sip, dude.
Dude.
And
I know. I'm sorry.
what you drinking? Is that just like a latte,
dude,
or what?
No, this is straight church coffee. This is left over from our staff meeting, so it is not good. But
your church coffee is different than what most people refer to as when they say church coffee.
Oh, no, this is bad church coffee. This is from staff meeting. When I get here in the morning, as I manage the cafe, I will make myself an Americano with Equator beans, which is
wow,
dude. That's like, I don't do it every day because I can't, but every once in a while I will.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
you still got your barista skills.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
You work full time at a Christian what? What was that?
Oh yeah, we're working at a Christian international school.
Okay.
And it's grades preschool through 9th grade, but then technically it goes through high school because from 9th grade through freshman year through senior year in high school, they actually finish school in America in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
At a church called Family of Faith.
Okay.
In Oklahoma.
Okay. What? So these are like missionary kids, or are they?
No, these are straight up kids from Japan.
Oh, okay.
So most of them aren't Christian, and they are coming to the school to get a multilingual experience.
Oh, okay.
In their education. Okay. So it really is a big ministry opportunity, and I guess mission field, so to speak, because most of the kids aren't Christians. It's totally interesting because you definitely have a big dichotomy as far as like people coming to go to a Christian school, but at home it looks completely backwards compared to the school they're going to. Yeah. Especially when it comes to like family dynamics and stuff like that.
Yeah. In that context, what the kids that aren't Christian, obviously I'm assuming there's some Christian kids that are at the school, but the ones that aren't, is they primarily, are they like atheist? Is there like a religion that they still kind of cling to? I know there's like some old Japanese like Shintoism, or I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I know there's some other kind of religion there. But
so like throughout the culture here, it's almost like it's strange, but I think like 99 or not 99, 90% maybe of people in Japan now claim that they're atheist.
Oh, wow.
But strangely, all the religious things that they still do in the culture, they do it as atheists. So they'll still participate in the festivals and all these things that are very, like you're saying, based in Shintoism or Buddhism or something, but that they'll claim to be atheists. And I think a lot of these kids, they don't really know where they're at. They don't really have theological conversations about stuff like that too often. Yeah. I mean, we teach Bible at the school, but I don't think they like go around and kind of figure out, what they are label wise. But I think most of the kids, I would say, are open, but they're not like convinced that Jesus is like the way, the truth and the life. It's kind of like, but they're open. They're like, yeah, I'll learn about this Jesus, and from what I see and from what I hear, it's just really interesting. But I don't know if they personally have made a commitment. But there's some amazing testimonies though. We have a school camp every year, and at that school camp is where people really do accept Jesus, and
that's awesome.
And do say, we believe he's the only way, and but then their heart breaks at the same time. It's like there's joy and elation, but then there's also like deflation. Like they get sad because they just start thinking about their family, and they're like, if all I'm believing is true, then what about my mom and my dad? What about my brother and sister? Like, how will they know God? And then, so then it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. Then they start, figuring out how to share the gospel with their family. And that's actually how we see the gospel being spread the most in Japan. It's through family. Yeah. It's not through conference speaker or church events. Yeah. And I mean, obviously there's discipleship, but that usually takes, like in America where we grew up, it seems like there's like an altar call, right? And there's
totally
there's people then who believe, and then who like I'm not sure if they believe or they stay and they keep believing and following Christ. But here it's like they really, really, really think out the decision, and for something that might take a day or a moment at an altar call in America, here it's like 3 to 4 years per salvation. So, from what everyone's seen. So, but when someone gets saved in a family, that's when we see it like happen quickly. Like usually, if the head of the household especially gets saved, the whole entire family gets saved like within that year. Wow. So it's pretty amazing. So so far that's been the observation and the encouragement. Like we were at a nursing home we're helping out with a nursing home ministry. Yeah. And someone actually received Christ, and people were going crazy, so excited, right? And we were excited, but it was amazing just to see the excitement on the Japanese Christians that were there, because they said that this man had been asking questions for the last 3 years about God, seriously asking, seriously seeking.
That's really cool.
And finally, in this fourth year, however many years it was, he said, "Okay, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to believe." And he's in a nursing home. He's near the end of his life. He's really really elderly.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing. Like, wow, like they don't play around here. It's like, but once they decide they're going to do it, they're like 100% all in. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
It's cool. I have a friend that is a missionary in Japan. Was one of our youth leaders, and she was saying the same thing actually.
Oh wow, that's cool.
That like they have like these conversations with people where it's almost like it kind of takes a little while to make that decision, but then once it's done, they're like full in. Hey, this is what I believe. Like I'm not gonna kind of dance back and forth or just kind of go with a fad or something.
Yeah, it's totally different than America. It seems like in that way.
Yeah. What? Okay. So, what do you guys teach at the school? Because obviously, I didn't realize. I know you have a degree. I know you have a degree from college and stuff from before, but I didn't know.
Yeah. So, let me tell you my day. So every morning we get there before school starts. We pray together with the teachers. And then we disperse. And then where I go first is I teach English to fifth graders.
Okay. Like English as a second language or English class?
Like
literature and
English class.
Okay.
So like they're spelling really difficult words at the fifth grade level. And this is their second language. So, and they're doing amazing. Yeah. So like one of their spelling words last week was extemporaneous. And
nice.
All right. I don't think any of them spelled that word wrong. Like they all spelled that word correctly. But
I don't even know if I can spell it right now.
the funniest thing is they'll look at me as if these are words that we use all the time in English.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I'm learning about extemporaneous. Like yeah, like this is like something that you learned when you were a little kid, right? Because this is how you talk to your parents and how you talk to your dog, right?
I'm going to go play an extemporaneous piece of music right now.
Yeah. And this is like how I talk. This is how you talk to your pets. This is like everyday language, right? Extemporaneous.
Yeah.
So, so it's funny in that way. It's like they just assume that every single thing they're learning is everything that we do too, but obviously it's not. So, I teach spelling, grammar, reading comprehension. And so we're reading through a book called Caddy Woodlawn right now.
Okay.
And they're taking a grammar test tomorrow. We're doing our final review today. So
nice.
So I do that from 9 to 12, usually Monday through Friday. And then we do lunch and then park. And then after park, I teach second graders English.
Okay.
And then second graders is a totally different dynamic.
Totally.
It's a lot more meltdowns and telling people to use tissues rather than their shirts when they have boogers, Yeah, like this girl yesterday who was learning English just kept, I don't know where she learned the word loogie, but she loogie, yeah. She just kept running up to me with like a mouthful of,
loogie.
I guess, yeah. and just kept saying, loogie, Joe Sensei, loogie.
Oh.
I was like,
wait, you're Joe Sensei?
Yeah, I'm Joe Sensei, yeah.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, loogie. And I was like, all right, go spit it in the bathroom. But it's a totally different dynamic. No, I told her to, what did I tell her? To spit that salty jelly somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, that's gross, man.
You have to kind of speak in their language, so
yeah.
I told her, yeah. And then, so I teach second grade English from 1 o'clock to 2:30.
Okay.
And then there's after school classes, and then I tutor students privately, and I also teach at these clubs. Like clubs are a big deal in Korea and in Japan, probably in China too, other Asian countries, where kids just continue to learn after school's finished. And so then there's basketball club, and so I went to basketball club yesterday, and I'm there from like 4 to like 6:30 p.m. And then I get home like around around 6:45 ish, 7 o'clock,
Jeez.
and then that's my day, long day.
Gosh.
And then other days there's praise club or music club, and and then in these places I'm helping teach them how to play instruments and how to do songs. And at every graduation, every program, Christmas program stuff, they perform a song. So
cool.
It's pretty cool. And these kids, they love Planet Shakers. I don't know if you've heard of Planet Shakers.
Oh yeah, from Australia.
Yeah, they love Planet Shakers. Yeah, I think Australia, right?
Yeah.
New Zealand or Australia. Yeah. And what do you call it? Korea, I guess, loves Planet Shakers too.
Oh, that's cool.
So pretty much most of the music we hear at church and we hear at the school is Planet Shakers and Hillsong Young and Free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
big.
I guess that fits their age group too, right?
Totally.
So
That's awesome.
and then so we kind of teach them how to play those songs from those places, and then that's pretty much what I do here, man. Yeah. And then Christina teaches Yochien. Yochien means like preschool, kindergarten.
Okay.
And she teaches that full time. So she has a totally different dynamic than I do too. She's like with like really young kids and, teaching them, pretty much how to have character and how to make good decisions.
Totally.
And we love the Silks, Danny and Sherry. So we try to incorporate a lot of that kind of stuff into what we're doing here, not to create a controlling environment where they fear the consequences and fear the teacher.
Yeah.
But like an empowering culture where we like tell them how to make good decisions, how to be like a pleasant person to be around.
Totally.
Like, you're not really fun right now. I don't think anybody wants to hang out with you when you're like this. Totally. Do you want to be a person that's more fun? Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we should do that. So
totally. That's got to be kind of different. I was gonna say that's got to be different than probably what they're used to. Culture.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
In case someone's listening to the book and the kind of teaching stuff that Joe's referring to is keep your love on, or loving your kids on purpose, from Danny Silk, has a bunch of tools there. So, but go ahead. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome. Danny and Sherry for the plug.
I'm sure they're avid listeners of my podcast at this point.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. Maybe if we told them we did a promo for them, they'll watch it.
Yeah. Sponsored by? Is this sponsored by them? This episode?
Yeah. I'm glad people will be listening and not watching, because I'm like in my beanie and my robe. So it's gonna be,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously that's got to be a difference from the culture they're used to a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Over there, do you see a lot of it's a little bit more of like a top-down kind of strict, right? Fear the consequences, fear the teacher type of a environment.
Yeah, definitely. When I got here, the advice I was told is, if the students are afraid of you, then they'll respect you. Mm-hmm. And that didn't really work out too well, because you know me, I'm not really.
No, that's definitely not. I don't know.
Yeah, so I tried as a missionary, trying to be honoring to the culture. Obviously, I try to do all these things all the time, but sometimes things just won't fit me. So I tried to do what I saw some other teachers doing, but it didn't work out. I was so tired by the end of the day, being somebody I was not. And the kids might have listened more to me when I was acting that way, but in the end of it, they weren't learning, they weren't growing, and it wasn't healthy. It felt very dysfunctional, so I stopped. And what I mean is I'd firmly hit my hand on the desk. I was told to do that, and to raise my voice and to have that stern face at a student that's being disruptive.
Yeah.
And giving them shaming stuff you're in fifth grade now, but you're acting like a preschooler, or what's wrong with you, or why are you like that, very da 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 da.
Totally.
Or but I realized, yeah, no, I can't do it. and, it was long talks when we first got here with Christina, because she was like, "Don't do it, Joe," and I'm like, but I see other teachers doing it, and I don't want them to think I'm not taking them seriously. But after figuring out a lot of the miscommunication, especially with the principal here, it got way better. And she really challenged me. She said, "Well, there's a way that you can have leadership and authority in your classroom without yelling and without being scary.
Yeah.
But you have to find it." And I was like, I agree. So,
that's really
cool. I feel like I'm finding it, and it's good for me personally, because from being my friend, like, I'm not really the type of guy. You're really good at this, but I'm not really that good at this.
being mean. Like, is that what you're saying? I'm good at being mean.
Yeah. No, of being like, hey, I really don't like that right now. Can you please stop that?
Okay, yeah, just direct communication.
Yeah, direct communication. I'm so passive aggressive, I think. Not I think. See, even saying that I'm passive aggressive, I think.
That's awesome.
That means I'm passive aggressive, right?
Probably I would yeah.
I'm passive aggressive, I think. But irritate me long enough, and then I really will tell you I'm passive aggressive. Right? but then I'll apologize afterwards. And then I'll crawl back into my hole and say I'm passive aggressive, I think. So so it didn't. Yeah, so it's been good for me personally to work on that, because that's not healthy to be that way.
Totally. And because there's a way you can be kind and not. You don't have to be a direct communicator to still set good boundaries.
Exactly.
And still communicate clearly. You don't have to be that. I don't know. People lump it into a personality, but there really is skills you can learn,
Oh, for sure. I feel like when you lump it into a personality, that's like a way to excuse yourself from being responsible for your actions,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Same with every other thing that we see diagnosed or explained through that way, I feel like.
Yeah, totally.
No, we all have room to grow.
It's just my personality. Just like it's just the way I am.
It's like those people that you work with at church, and you're like, "Oh man, like, do you think you can help with children's ministry just for like a little bit?" Oh man, I'm not called to that. I don't. I'm like, called to like to do this stuff, but not that. I'm like, oh no, I'm just asking for you to like, just like watch the kids for like 10, 15 minutes while this other person's here. Oh no, I can't, man. Sorry.
Just not my call. Yeah, I'm with my kids all week long.
Yeah. Or hey dude, do you think you could like just like organize the cafe more, or just keep it clean? Oh dude, that's like the ministry of helps, like I'm not really.
I have the gift of prophecy, not the gift of helps.
Yeah, I'm like called to be a prophet. Like, I'll like tell you what's going to happen in the coffee shop, but I don't know about this cleaning up stuff. So yeah, no,
dude, you're speaking my language right now. I have to be careful because, like, I oversee nursery, preschool, and kids ministry. Kind of like I oversee those teams.
Oh yeah.
Like departmentally, and it's always like a constant conversation. Like obviously. Most churches struggle with, needing volunteers for nursery and preschool and stuff.
Sure.
But it's hilarious how many times you get that conversation where it's like, I don't really feel called to work with the kids. It's like, well, serve where there's a need. It's a big difference.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I think it's just because not just in the church, but everywhere around the world, we compartmentalize things into being kids this and then somehow at some age it becomes non-kids, and then but people are people, right?
Yeah, totally. I have a kind of a cultural question for you, because obviously you're Korean. Culturally, like your parents were from South Korea. You were born here in the States, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born here.
Is there like what was that?
Oh, it's weird. I said I was born here, but not Japan, but in America.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So what? I'm just curious. Does that create any sort of barriers, or maybe not barriers, maybe opportunities because of your culture? You know, looking at you, do they automatically kind of lump you into like a certain category or something, or has that created any challenges for you?
Well, strangely, it's been like an ongoing joke, but starting from being at the Japanese embassy in Seattle to going on the flight to Japan, and ever since we've been in Japan, everyone thinks I'm Japanese.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, they won't believe me if I tell them I'm not, because I'll be telling them in Japanese that I'm not Japanese, that I'm from America.
That's awesome.
You know? And they'll be like, okay, so you can speak Japanese. That's good, you know? And so everywhere we go here, at the grocery store, restaurants, people are expecting for me to speak Japanese, and they think I'm Japanese.
Yeah. Now, do you know Japanese at all? Are you learning it?
Yeah, definitely learning. We can get around and you know, obviously order food and do stuff at the grocery store, do very like basic survival Japanese, you know?
Nice. Yeah.
But I really feel like I have no time right now to learn it. So I hope during the downtime, which is like when school's not in session, I can really learn it. But in class, it's very strict. They want me to speak only English.
Oh, okay.
But I'll still say things to the students like, "Do you know this? Do you remember this? Do you understand?" You know, in Japanese. Yeah, and I'll do anyways. But yeah, as far as being Korean, the teachers who know that I'm Korean, they actually practice Korean with me,
Okay.
and you know, the wartime here is past. You know, the culture here is all about learning from the past, and so they don't hold any grudge with Korea, obviously, because Korea didn't try to conquer them; they tried to conquer Korea, right?
Yeah, right.
And also they are so anti-war in Japan.
Really,
like, they don't even have a military here anymore.
Oh, wow.
They have something called the reserves. So if something happens, I guess people will just show up and try to form a defense against you know, an attack. But they learned from the past that war is bad. You know, after 2 of your towns get nuked, right? They realized. Yeah, they went from like trying to be one of the what was it called in history? Part of the Axis powers, right? Russia, Japan, Germany. They went from being there to now wanting to be hidden, invisible. You know, a peaceful nation that does not stand out, that doesn't bring attention to itself. So in that sense, as far as like the Korean-Japan relations, on this side of it, they love it. They love K-pop music here. It's one of the most popular styles of music here.
Oh, cool.
For those that don't know what K-pop is, it's just Korean pop music. Even big in America. Yeah. I think surprisingly big. Emma Stone is a huge K-pop fan.
Oh, wow.
Which is weird because
I feel like K-pop. It's like it's one of those. When you watch a K-pop music video, it's like, I don't know, you're passed out somehow, like super tired or something early in the morning, and it's like one of those weird dreams where nothing seems to make sense. Ridiculous colors.
Yeah, and probably in an inappropriate dream as well, because those girls are like wearing close to nothing too in those videos, which is weird for me because in Japan too, modesty isn't really something that's part of the culture here, but honor is. You know, like you want to be polite, but not really modest, and maybe Korea is the same way. But in America, like if you show a music video like that, you're like, whoa, why is this so racy? Like,
oh wow,
why are people dressed like that? This is kind of weird.
That's funny.
But anyway, but as far as in Korea, I met people in Korea. Sadly, super sadly, they still haven't really forgiven Japan, and a lot of them have a grudge against Japan still. They love the things from Japan, like food, but they'll even like call them Korean names and not Japanese names because they don't want. Yeah, it's really sad. It's like, I know it was horrible, but at some point you have to forgive and move forward, you know?
Yeah.
But it's still pretty bad, I hear, over there from 2 or 3 different people now have come from Korea.
Oh, wow.
And one guy flat out, I said, yeah, Japan, they like Koreans, like they love the culture. And he goes, really? Wow, that's crazy. Korea hates Japan, dude. I was like, wow. I'm like, hate? He goes, no, hate, dude. They like hate. I'm like, that's sad. Like,
wow.
In the end, when it's all said and done, when Jesus, confronts us about stuff, he's going to definitely have to confront Korea if they can't get over their forgiveness, of something that's happened in the past, especially if a lot of these people are Christians. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So, I think in that sense, sadly, I'm not trying to jump all around here, but that is like another example of how if you're raised in an environment of racism like that in Korea, where you grow up to say Japanese people are bad, they're evil, they're horrible people, it just gets ingrained in that generation's mindset that if you're Japanese, you're bad. If you're Korean, you're the best. So I think that's one thing I never really got with Korean culture, in that they're so nationalistic to a fault. Like they're so proud of their country to a fault, to where it becomes like very like blinding, like especially when it comes to like what the Bible says. Like, it's great, you're very proud to be Korean, but at what point do you see everyone as equal, and as your brother and sister, and even the Japanese, you know that they're not what history has done to you. They're just God's people. He loves them just as much as he loves you. So that's still a struggle over there. So there is still a tension over there. If I was Japanese going to Korea to teach English, I think it'd be different than being Korean and coming to Japan to teach English.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because like it's like being in the States and kind of looking at Asian culture. It's really easy. Obviously, like this is going to sound super like white American. I don't know how else to say it, but like you just kind of assume, like obviously there's like racial differences and stuff, but like here in the States, most racism is associated with skin color. Where over there, obviously, like as a Westerner, Koreans and Japanese and stuff, they look similar. Obviously, I know like culturally, you guys can like tell each other apart, but like on the outside, for me, I would struggle with that. But like how the racism there's really along national lines, like really strong.
Yeah. And I would say more so in Korea than Japan. Yeah.
It's what you were pointing out, but it's just interesting seeing that from the outside and recognizing that racism is a international problem. You know what I mean? With people, with people's heart, if they're in a culture where there's unforgiveness and holding a grudge against another people group, it doesn't matter the skin color. Racism is there or can be there.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's sad. It makes no sense, really. It's such a strange thing that we still are dealing with. Not just on an international level, but on a national level in America. So it's weird. It really is.
I have kind of a question I want to ask you. I saw you posted a post, I think on Facebook or Instagram, a song you had written and some stuff there, and you had kind of talked about just a little bit of your process of like writing music and kind of your up and down journey of that, because obviously you've been doing music and writing songs for as long as I've known you. You've written music constantly. You're one of the most guys that are like songwriters. You're one of the, I don't know, dude, you have so many songs, like you're constantly writing music, which for me is like a total encouragement and like, kind of spurs me on to like, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm not playing these in a church somewhere or whatever, or recording them. I need to just continue to write. But you kind of mentioned a little bit of your process and journey of kind of like the up and down kind of swing that you've kind of gone through over the years.
Sure.
I just have some questions about that because I just want to hear kind of your process right now. Where God's kind of brought up some dreams that were in your heart that you had put down for a while,
Yeah.
So what just happened? I know you just wrote some music or a song for, it was for a group that was going into brothels. Is that what it was? That was doing ministry or like?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about that? Because that was super cool.
Yes. So I have a missionary friend who lives in Hong Kong, and he's from America, and he does a ministry in the red light district. He's been doing it for years now, where they just go into the red light district where the prostitutes are in Hong Kong. And yeah, he just literally speaks identity to these prostitutes about, not how they see themselves as, but how God sees them.
Yeah.
Like as his daughters, and that he loves them. And they've been doing this for years. He takes a team, and they used to hand out roses, or they still do, flowers, just to show them like value. Like, I'm sure a lot of these girls have never received like a rose, sadly, from anyone before. And then recently they had an idea to pass out MP3 players to everyone working in the red light district that they encounter. And like, when I mean everyone, I think there are like hundreds of MP3 players that they handed out.
Oh, wow.
And on these MP3 players, they asked people from the States to record songs that could be songs that would be like God singing to these people, to these women. And Julie Meyer from IHOP, right? And she was part of it, which is cool because I've never met her, but I've always respected her so much. And other people too that are just amazing were helped out with it. And then he was like, and God really brought you on my heart of all people, I just really feel like it was really important for you to do this. And I said, I prayed about it, and I was like, yeah, dude, I would be honored to. And right when I did that, that's when I wrote that Facebook post.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, I'm finally doing this thing that people said I'd be doing, like, I don't know,
years
15,
ago.
20 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And it looks completely different than what I thought it would look like.
Yeah.
But it's just cool. It's cool to just knowing that I'm just obeying God, just following him, So
yeah.
And it's been amazing. The fruit of what's happened is a lot of these women have told him that they listen to this every day, constantly, and they even put tracks on repeat. And they've been crying. They've been he's been seeing a lot of inner healing, and a lot of people not just obviously being comforted by music, but receiving Jesus into their hearts, and then being in that weird situation where they know what they're doing. They want to get out of it.
Yeah.
But at least as far as their soul, and as far as getting through that emotionally and spiritually, they're finding the Lord even in the midst of a horrible circumstance like that. So
totally. And I mean, a lot of people don't even realize like these ladies that are stuck in this situation, it's not even just a hey, I'm just choosing to be a prostitute or just choosing to like screw around. I mean, they're trapped. They don't have an out.
Yeah.
They're completely stuck in this environment. And so
totally.
Dealing with like the emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, like the mental and the soul kind of side of just pain, just so much pain and destruction in their life. And, they want out, they can't get out for a lot of them.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. In Japan too, a sad thing that we're finding out is, they don't really have orphanages here, but if they do, everyone in Japan they're all about the blood, the Japanese blood. So, and carrying their name, their family name, that none of these kids get adopted. And
wow.
And they don't open adoption to overseas, like, internationally, unless there's like a strict parameter there. Unless you become a Japanese resident for 6 months, you can't even be considered to as someone eligible to adopt a child from Japan.
Oh wow!
And so like growing up, you don't really hear about or see someone being adopted and being from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually from Korea or these other Asian countries, China, but it's very strict in Japan. So a lot of these people who are in the orphanages, they can't get jobs when they get too old and they have to leave. And a lot of them go into prostitution because that's the only way they can make it.
Yeah.
And sadly, in this culture that's very polite and very like just considerate, there's also a huge problem with just sexual immorality And
Yeah.
like even when you go to the grocery stores, they're not covered up. It's just like magazines.
Yeah.
And sadly, the girls in these magazines, and not that I'm like looking at them, like you can't avoid them. You're just going to get milk,
Yeah.
and there's a magazine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like on the covers and stuff. So it's not even like
Yeah.
here they'll have
So I haven't-
wraps on them and stuff.
Yeah, there's no wraps, and obviously I haven't like picked one up and looked through it, so I don't really know what it looks like on the inside. But from what I see on the covers, they're always young girls. They look like they're like high schooler, junior higher girls that are like posing, and it's never like in America. It's like Vogue or I don't know, Esquire or I don't know magazines these days, Cosmopolitan, whatever you see at the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a woman that's at least of age and, going to be tasteful, I think, right? So I guess that's kind of subjective. But yeah, here it's like they're young girls, and there's a problem with that. And I think, sadly, in the school system, the kids at our school, they're getting a totally different experience also than kids in the Japanese school system, where like sexual abuse is pretty high, and it's just never reported. Yeah, it's just kind of hidden. So so this culture, that's one thing that's been heartbreaking. It's like we want to see whatever this thing is in this culture to get healed. You know, where this pain's coming from. Yeah,
totally.
As far as that goes, yeah.
Man, thanks for bringing us back down, Joe.
I know. I keep taking it down. You keep trying to take it back up.
Oh no, it's okay. I mean, it's the reality where you're at right now, dude. Like that's just hard. It's heartbreaking,
It's true. I'm from Seattle too. So
I have two girls. You know what I mean? Like thinking about that, like being in an environment where that kind of stuff is just prevalent. It's hard. It's really hard to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. We just had to say yes to God, but right when we were flying over, that's when missiles were flying over Japan from North Korea too. So we definitely weren't coming here thinking it was going to be grass is green. We're coming here thinking we don't know what's going to happen. We could die. Like we literally could die.
Yeah.
But we just have to be obedient, and we came. And it was also during the time we had some other stuff going on here that was pretty scary for the country. But this is another thing. They're like, you really want to bring your girls to a country where this kind of stuff happens? And we're like, we have to just trust God, and we'll do our best as teachers at the school to be mindful and to be watchful of it. But what else can we do? We just have to obey the Lord. And it's not like it's so prevalent. I mean, if you go on the internet, so many foreigners will even say, like, be careful when you ride the trains, if you're by yourself, if you're a young girl, because people will start just touching you on the trains, and the girls will never talk about it, But I don't think they do to foreigners, or maybe they do, sadly.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. When my family went into missions when I was a kid, my parents, people were shocked at my parents for like, hey, you're going to take two boys to Africa? I was 6.
Yeah.
My brother was 9 when we got there. I turned 7 right after.
Pretty much the same ages as our girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I mean, obviously, me and Derek are fine.
Yeah.
I turned out okay.
Yeah.
But it really is. There is an aspect of parents like, confronting that thing of like, no, we're trusting God, with our kids. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to listen to his voice.
Yeah.
And trust that, if God's calling us to this area, he's going to take care of us as well. But what's funny is what people don't realize is that's the same whether you're living in the States or you're living in Africa or you're living in Japan. It's not like we're not trusting God to protect our kids or take care of our kids when we're living here.
I know. Yeah. It is strange. It's the American way though, It's like you want to safe zone your life around something. So you'll safe zone it by, well, I'm going to move to this suburb that's like has a low crime rate, and this school that it's like a really well created school. Nothing wrong with all those things, but at some point you have to make sure your fortress is the Lord and not, these things. Yeah.
Things
and
that
goes, that goes worldwide. But I think what really inspired me was a testimony that Sean Floyd shared, and Sean took his family, blonde hair, blue eyed family, to Iraq, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think like 100 kilometers from the ISIS base, right?
Yeah, they were right there next to it.
Yeah,
It was really close.
People sent him, he said, emails and phone calls of frustration of like, what are you doing? This is foolish.
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to prove something to the world that you are brave, or what are you doing? Why can't you just go? Why do you have to bring your family? That's just not smart. And he was like, they want to go, and we all felt like we're supposed to go together as a family. And just people kept giving him advice after advice.
Yeah.
And they ended up going and being completely safe. God did some cool stuff there, and they came back. But when they came back, they had found that this giant oak tree. Did you hear about this testimony?
I didn't hear about the oak tree part. I heard that when they went there it was awesome. God did crazy stuff when they were there with their kids and stuff.
This oak tree, it fell while they were gone. And it didn't hit the house, but it was all over their driveway. Oh, wow. And when he came back, he felt like God spoke to him. He said he felt the fear of the Lord, because he just said like the safest place you can ever be is where God wants you to be. Yeah. It's not Middle East, it's not Japan, it's not America. It's just wherever God has you, or where you're following Him. That's the safest place you can be, in His presence. With Him. Trusting Him. So, obviously there's a disclaimer to that, because Jesus said, there will be trials and tribulations. I'm not saying like
totally. It's not like there's not going to be difficult situations or
no. There's no formulas. Yeah. Life might still be difficult, obviously. But I'm just saying, he said that oak tree is where his kids always played under. Had they been at that house playing like they usually do, and they listened to everyone, they didn't go to the Middle East, his kids probably would have died.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they would have survived.
Yeah,
an oak tree falling on top of toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all of its branches and all that stuff. Just all around the area where they're playing.
Yeah.
And so
that's crazy.
Yes. So that inspired me. I was like, I just got to go with God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and both my daughters have influenza right now, by the way.
Oh, dang. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's like a big Asian epidemic right now.
The flu?
So, yeah, but out here they don't call it the flu, they call it influenza. It sounds more serious. But it's actually pretty severe this year. In Hong Kong, like hundreds of people have died already.
Oh, wow.
And it's only been a few months. And I don't think it's anything like what do you call it? Ebola or H1N1 or any of that stuff. Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Swine flu or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, avian flu. I don't know what it is now, the big one.
But that's been another hard situation with our family. Telling me, oh yeah, your granddaughters, they're not doing too well. They have influenza. They're out of school for a year, or not a year, for the week. Yeah. And then they're watching on the news about influenza, and they see all these people like dying, and because that's just the news, they want to make it. Yeah. They're reporting what's happening, but so your parents see that, and then they hear that their grandkids have influenza, and they're not. That's not too good. So. But we're just like, yeah, I don't know. Just trust in God. It's going to be okay. So.
That's funny. I mean, it's hard to say like in the moment too, because it's, when you're walking through it, it's, you just got to take care of them.
For sure. They're doing great though. They're going to be home or Eliana gets to go back on Thursday, but Aaliyah has to wait until Monday to go back to school.
Yeah. Like
literally wait. Like the doctor says she's not allowed to leave the house for a week.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's really strict here.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
She can't go to a restaurant. She can't go to the grocery store.
Wait,
she can't
real?
go to. Yeah, she can't. She's on house arrest.
Oh my gosh.
For a week here. Yeah, and then she has to get tested again at some point, and then she's released to go back and to do things as usual. Yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah, it's intense, but it's kind of smart because it's their way of controlling just people from being infected by a really bad virus.
Spreading. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I want to go back here to the songwriting thing just because I want to ask.
Really, you don't want to talk about influenza and other stuff that's like
no,
joyful to talk about?
I feel like people listening right now are probably turning this off. They're like, this is boring.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Most likely so. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, dude.
This is kind of more like a hangout with you. Should we do this over again? Should we just hang up and just pretend we just started again?
Try again.
Make it sound more upbeat.
Oh my
gosh. Sound more upbeat.
Hey, welcome to the Dustin Box Podcast with my special guest, Joe Choi.
Ohio gozaimasu from Osaka.
Dude. Okay. I want to know. Be real about your process for just a second. If somebody's listening out there that either has dreams that they're trying to pursue, right? Because if you go back to that song that you talked about, you wrote for that recording for the prostitutes in Hong Kong, you mentioned it's some stuff that people had told you when you were younger, but that was like a prophetic word you had about singing over nations and writing songs for, that would bring breakthrough for other cultures. And I know songwriting and worship leading is a big part of what you carry and who you are.
Yeah.
What was the process like, having those words and kind of hanging on to them and then not seeing anything for 15, 20 years? You know what I mean? In that process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously I know that one song isn't the fulfillment of all of that, right? But
yeah,
there is this aspect of when we receive a prophetic word, or we have even maybe not a prophetic word, but just a dream or an aspiration.
Yeah.
Being point A, and then there's this crazy journey to getting to point B, like getting to actually see it or walk in it.
No, totally, man.
What has that process been like for you over the years?
No, that's really good. I want to start that out with this really good quote I just heard recently. Let me pull it up real quick. Where are you? Oh man, I want to give credit to where credit's due. Okay, I can't find it, but it was so good. But anyway, someone just said recently, you can't fail at writing a worship song, and he says, "Can you fail at giving your dad a hug?"
Oh wow.
And that blew my mind because I was like,
gold.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what songwriting, that's where it always existed for me. And that's how it always will exist for me. I never I wrote poetry when I was younger, and then, and strangely so, even teachers said it was very strange how I was writing poetry. And I'm just saying this with humility, but at the level that I was writing it at with just writing descriptively.
Totally.
That I was in poetry contests. They told me to submit my poetry. So even from a young age, I knew I liked creative writing. Mm-hmm. And I hated piano. I had to take piano lessons like every Asian kid has to take piano lessons. And I didn't like the structure and the rigidness of it. And I even remember I used to tapping I like tapping my foot all the time. Uh-huh. And I remember my piano teacher told me, that if you keep tapping your foot like that, you're going to hell. I was like, oh.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And I thought she was serious. And she goes, yeah, because the devil taps his foot like that,
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, wow, what Bible is she reading? I never heard about this toe tapping devil. So I hated piano lessons, man. So I didn't want to do anything with piano lessons. I didn't want to sing. When I sang, I felt like I sang like a girl. And, I was like, I wanted to be tough guy. I don't want to be, that guy. So
praise Jesus. Like that? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to be like the Nickelback of my elementary school. Yeah.
Oh no.
But I sounded more like the Clay Aiken of my elementary school. But anyway, I don't know. Clay Aiken doesn't really have a high voice, but I sounded like someone with a super high voice, and it just felt uncomfortable. And yeah. I was just trying to think of the opposite of Nickelback. I don't know if Clay is that.
Hey, it works. It works.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, go
But
ahead.
but yeah. So yeah. So I didn't like music, but I liked writing. And then one day I learned guitar, just playing chords, and then that's when I fell in love with music, and I started singing the songs that we're singing at church. The reason why I like that is because I got to pick the songs that I liked the best at church,
Yeah.
and I got to sing them at home by myself. And then that's when I started not having the language for it, but that's when I started, feeling and sensing the presence of God a lot more, and on a basis where I knew that when I did this, I could feel God, and that was when I would sing, I could feel God. And so I started writing songs, and again, it was like that quote I just shared with you. It was not to write a worship song.
Yeah.
It was to give my dad a hug. It was my way of talking to him, my way of showing him love. And then I think starting in high school and then in college, people started asking for me to share these, with other people.
Yeah.
And then, long story short, when I arrived at Bethel after college, that was another big decision because I just wanted to. I was going to go to seminary. I thought that's what you had to do. Again, growing up Asian, you go to college, you go to seminary, and then you can legally be okay to be a pastor because you have your master's of divinity.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the route I had to take, and but I felt like doing something dangerous and going to an unaccredited school of ministry, right? And because I felt like I was supposed to, and I think you were there when this happened. I got there to go to the school of ministry. I didn't try out for the worship team there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to learn about God and how to do ministry stuff. But then Justin Byrne, good friend, he told the school. He told Kathy Valentin. He said, "Hey, you know that my roommate Joe, he plays music. I can hear him in his room, just playing around. You should have him help out." And Kathy says, "Hey, Justin says you play music." I'm like, "Well, not really. I don't really. I just want to be here for school of ministry." She goes, "No, can you come out? You can come on Saturday. We'll just have a special day for you and some other people to try out." And I was like, all right. And then when I showed up, it was funny because I had like my pedal board, my electric guitar, all my gear. They're like, obviously you play music, you have all this gear.
Totally.
And I was like, oh, this stuff? Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about it, but that's just what I roll with because, again, it's always been giving my dad a hug. It's never been like, I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be this and that,
Yeah. So even your deal with like playing electric guitar and buying different pedals, it was more of just you trying to express what was in your heart, trying to be creative, versus trying to be on a team and play for church or play shows or something like that.
Exactly. So way back in the 90s, back in the 19th century,
20th century. We're in the 21st century.
Oh yeah, sorry. Back in the 20th century, 19th century. Anyway, back in the 1900s. That's what I should say.
There you
back
go.
In the 1900s. Boss pedals. Remember those?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Still, man.
So
I still have Boss pedals on my board right now.
That was my first pedal. It was a chromatic tuner pedal.
Uh-huh.
And dude, the sounds I could get out of that chromatic tuner was crazy. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. It really beefs up your tone on that,
Yeah. Yeah, that buffer in there. Yeah. But anyway, what do you call it? I remember like someone was concerned with me in college because he said, what's something you're thinking about right now, Joe? What's something that you're excited about? And I didn't understand physics yet. I never took a physics course, but in my own language, I explained to him like, I think there's something about these things called guitar effects. And he goes, what are those? He goes, they're like things that you can like put your guitar through and it makes them have different sounds. And I said, there's just something about these things where I feel like there's like little micro notes and stuff that can come out of your sound, and these things can like wrap around people and wrap around like rooms and stuff, and it can like I could just see that changing people and like just impacting people. And he was looking at me like,
Dude,
"What
he
are you
probably thought you were,
talking
yeah, he
about?"
probably thought you were psycho.
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. I think there's something about guitar effects and about just creating like these cool things with sound that you can manipulate the sound and do all these weird things." And yeah, he just thought I was really strange. And then later on, obviously, I learned more about sound, sine waves and all that stuff,
Totally.
and about just even the physics of sound, how sound itself can shape matter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was on to something, but I think guitar pedals was my all in on that. So I started like eating ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches
To
and
fund your
saving
guitar
up.
purchases.
Oh yeah, to save up all my money to fund guitar purchases.
Dude, I think I caught the bug from you. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you launched me on this really painful journey.
Yeah, dude.
Constantly buying pedals, selling pedals,
Yeah.
buying new ones,
Yeah, you're welcome, Savannah, if you're listening.
Dude. Yes, my
Yeah.
wife, I'm sure, thanks you.
And yeah, I think line 6, the DL4, that was my first looper
Yeah.
pedal.
Oh yeah.
And I actually got to see Howie Day live in New York.
Oh, dude,
And
for reals?
yeah, before he was, I guess, bigger.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this guy's doing crazy stuff. And there's this old song. I don't remember if it was around this time or after this time, but there's a song by the Talking Heads called Psycho Killer. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have to look
Okay,
it up.
it sounds horrible, but it's a goofy song. And
Psycho Killer.
it's very iconic because this guy comes out with like a tape set,
Nice.
boombox,
Yeah.
and he hits play, and then his drum machine plays off of the tape through the boombox,
Yeah.
and it's like this totally like 80s drum beat,
Nice.
like that sounds more like Bollywood, I guess, but
Yeah.
I guess Bollywood would be more like right?
Oh my
But anyway,
gosh.
you know
All
what I
right.
mean.
Yeah.
And then he starts playing an acoustic guitar over it,
Uh-huh.
and the song is just so catchy, right? And
That's cool.
and the guy, man, my brain, David Byrne, right? The Talking Heads, David Byrne, I think that's it. Yeah, he's just a character, and he's amazing. And so, yeah, so I was just like, there's something about looping. So I remember I never saw anyone else doing it, but I started like looping my answering machine.
Oh wow.
Back in the 1900s, we had these things called answering machines, where you had something called a landline telephone, and if you weren't home, this answering machine would pick up and say, "Hi, we're not home right now. Please leave a message after the beep." It was before digital voicemail, but anyway, I remember like calling my own phone from someone else's phone or something. We figured out how to do it, and leaving messages on this answering machine. And then I would loop I would actually take the answering machine with me. I'd borrow it from my roommate. Say, "Guys, sorry, I'm going to borrow this." And then whenever I would play live, I would actually put the microphone on the answering machine speaker. And I was like already doing stuff like that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it was like so weird for people, but I was in New Jersey, and these were like in college auditoriums, and like some of them were open mic, some of them were for like music class because I minored in music.
Yeah.
So I took a class called History of Hip Hop.
Oh, nice.
And it is legit. We had people from the Rocksteady crew who taught us breakdancing.
Oh, dang.
It was required that you pass a breakdancing 4-week class with the Rocksteady crew to get a good grade.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
I just want to see. I want to see you break dance, dude. I had no idea. I've known you for years. What the heck, man?
Yeah, no, I don't think I can break dance. I think I probably look like Kevin James in there. Yeah. So, yeah, Napoleon Dynamite has more moves than me, man. But anyway, but yeah, so I was in there, and we had to do a performance, right? That truly captures the culture of hip hop. And one of my friends was like an MC. He's really good at rapping, and his favorite rapper was like Jay-Z, you know?
Yeah.
And if you know anything about rap, Jay-Z is like a really intelligent rapper. Like he's not like talking about girls in the party and going get in the nice car. He might bring stuff like that into it, but he is just super smart. And Nas is another guy who's like that. And then obviously those are people before them, and then there's been people after them. But anyway, so at that time in the 1900s, Jay-Z was big. So this guy, he wrote, we had to find partners for the class to do this project. So I partnered up with him, and then I was like, hey, so I have this thing called a looper. It's kind of like, it's not a turntable, but I can kind of make it sound like a turntable. And I can kind of make the track stop and go. I can make it go da 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 and go back again. I can even put it into reverse. You know,
Yeah.
You remember the deal for it getting reverse?
I still miss that. Like, I for some reason, I feel like that looper is still like the best. If it just was longer, you know what I mean? If it was longer than 14 seconds or 28, if you doubled it, you know.
I am the same way. Like I get tortured by this actually because I have the EHX looper now, but
oh, dude, how is that, by the way? Because that didn't that just come out?
I love it.
Like
that's ago. That's the huge looper. I got the smaller one.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, but I've had the RC50 too.
Yeah.
And the ones that have like the quantizing and all that. But another guy, Andrew Bird. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he still uses DL4s.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, it sounds just amazing. And he's all about capturing imperfections. So he knows that it's always going to be a millisecond off, and he'll never be able to like truly replicate something that he does in a looping session again. It's just going to always be unique to that. And I think that is something special about using a DL4.
Yeah.
And that's why I got the EHX too, because there's no quantizing. It's going to be more
whatever
like
it is you do. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's what's going to be. What's going to be. So anyway, I showed the guy that he started rapping, and it was cool, man. It was really good. And then we at one point I hit reverse, and that's when this guy started breakdancing, and then we turned it into breakdancing sessions. So like, you know, jazz music, you have the trading of fours.
Totally.
And in hip hop, you kind of have something like that happening when MCs switch, or so this is a kind of a trading of fours. I don't rap, so that's when I reversed it, and he started rapping, started breakdancing, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really good. He was really good, and we ended up getting an A, which it was hard to get an A. We got an A.
Yeah.
And then this African American group, they asked us to come to a hip hop or just I think a sorority fraternity.
Wow.
It's a sorority night at the African American sorority, right? And whatever it was called, Phi Kelpa Phi or whatever. And
bunch of Greek letters.
And they're looking for rap artists, and they thought we were like a legit rap act, and they wanted us to perform. And that's when I told my friend, "Nah, dude, sorry. Yeah, this is for school. This is for school, but it'd be way too weird and pretentious of me to go and show up there. Like,
totally.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the nerdy Asian kid.
Yeah,
all these people are more cool and legit, you know. But anyway." It was cool because there's another band there, and they brought in like their gear, dude, like nice gear, like full stack. And back then, Mesa Boogie was a big deal.
Yeah,
full stack Mesa Boogies. They had their keyboards, and they pretty much replicated all the big hits of the time that the Neptunes were putting out.
Yeah,
do you remember who the Neptunes are?
I missed a whole like section of music because of where I was in Africa when I came back.
Dude, no worries. Neptunes was Pharrell Williams. You know Pharrell?
Oh yeah, of course.
Happy? Yeah. So Pharrell and this other dude who's a Filipino guy. Everyone just calls him the Filipino guy. No one knows his name. Sorry, but Pharrell and the Filipino guy. They did a collaboration called the Neptunes, and they produced the tracks for a lot of big hip hop songs of that era.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's how Pharrell actually became famous.
Okay, that's cool.
Anyways, so this group actually replicated all of these tracks live, and that itself was huge because no one saw a live hip hop band yet like that. And I remember Wyclef played at our college, and he brought a live band. And that was a big deal too. Wow. They're like, "What? A live band?"
Yeah.
So, but the reason why I'm mentioning them is because I don't even know why, but like they killed it. Everyone's going crazy. It felt like we're at a concert.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we're eating at the food court, and because we're all college kids, you know.
Yeah.
And they came up to me and they said, "Man, you guys killed it." You know, like us with my DL4 looper.
Yeah.
I go, "You guys killed it." He's like, "No, man, you guys killed it, and we're just amazed." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's called looping," you know. And I didn't know that 20 years after this, whatever many years, you know, that looping is now just everywhere, dude.
Oh,
it's
totally.
just a big deal. So, yeah, so
that's awesome.
That's kind of my pedal journey, man, and how that started.
So then so from that kind of point, so from there you went, obviously you eventually made your way to Reading, school of ministry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Worship.
Yeah. And so long story short, I tried out on that Saturday audition. Not only was Kathy there, but Brian Johnson was there. Mm-hmm. And from then on, Brian didn't want me just playing for the school worship. He wanted me playing on Sundays and Friday nights.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up just saying okay because I wanted to be honoring. I'm Asian, you know. Yeah. Okay, sure, yeah. And I that whole year I never even was at school of ministry for maybe 2 months. I was just traveling with Brian and Jen and and with Chris and Kim, and Chris Kilala, Kim Walker Smith, all these people, and I graduated.
In case you're listening, those are the guys that Jesus Culture Band, Kim Walker, and Chris Kilala. Before that was like the early days when Jesus Culture was just a conference, and these guys,
yeah. And so I wasn't at school ministry. I was turning in my work when I got back, you know, like the papers and the reading assignments. So so after all that, I was like, kind of, I don't know if the word's jaded, but I was kind of thinking, this is not what I came here to do. I came here to go to ministry school, and these people, they love this style of worship, you know, of playing at conferences and being invited to places and, I don't know, traveling, but I didn't fit into it, you know, like I never dreamed about that. That's what people always told me and gave me prophetic words about. But I just liked singing songs, giving dad a hug, you know. That's how it all started. I think that's kind of what it's always going to be for me, you know. Mm-hmm. So
because I feel like over the years, it's interesting that you say that particular quote. Because it's really interesting, like knowing the music that you've written, playing together, you know what I mean? Like either when I was playing bass for you occasionally or just like worshiping together, different services and stuff.
By the way, Dustin's a really good bass player.
No, dude, I haven't played bass regularly in years, bro. Like
you're good though,
dude.
You're good. You're legit.
But
people might just know that you play guitar, but you play bass really well too.
Thank you. But regardless, what's crazy is that quote, bro, like I feel like that sums up like this types of songs that you write and the songs that you've written that I've been the most impacted by and like the ones that I've been most like really influenced by and stuff carry with it that sort of feeling. Even if lyrically they're not just like Dad, I love you or Father God, like even like lyrically they're not necessarily like really narrow in that. I don't know how to say it, but like they're not necessarily just about that. It carries with them kind of an atmosphere and environment of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just like you when you lead worship, that's what it feels like. You know?
Thanks, man. That's cool. That's the stuff that moves me. I mean, I think that's what got me inspired by music in the first place. Is because I grew up in Seattle, so that was around the Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all that stuff happening.
Early grunge scene, kind of. 90s.
Yeah, and I know all the not so famous bands because they're famous in Seattle, but not on a national level. Like Mother Love Bone and Temple of Dog. Well, Temple of Dog got big, but
that's funny.
All these random Seattle bands, right? So, but I wasn't into it. I was not connecting with grunge, but what I was connecting with was 90s R&B. and now that I look back, I think it was what you're talking about is because I knew I was going to be writing songs. I didn't know at the time, but it was because I'd be writing songs one day that emote. Yeah. And for me, these R&B artists were emoting.
Yeah. Like they were like communicating emotions, heartfelt emotions.
Yeah, they're doing something with their communication that like you could feel their hearts in it,
Yeah.
And Kurt Cobain did that amazingly well, which later on when I think you remember in Weaverville when I got hit over the head when I found Jeff Buckley's Grace EP.
Dude.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and around that era, in Reading, all the kids were listening to Under Oath and Norma Jean and Beloved,
Blindside.
So, I mean, Blindside, dude, I love Blindside. But anyway, there's obviously emoting that happens in that style of music.
Yeah.
For some reason, at the age that I was at, it just didn't connect with me as that, but R&B did. And so there's a band called Jodeci.
Okay.
And I remember the song even. It was called Cry for You.
Yeah.
And it's so embarrassing to even mention it because I think the video, the music video that's still out there is them in a desert with their shirts off, singing. It's so.
Dude, we should do a recreation of that sometime. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
Cry for me? Is that what it is? Cry for you.
Cry for you.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember I had like these old speakers in my house that my dad found somewhere.
The old tower speakers?
Yeah, these old school tower speakers. Dude. That you had to twist wires.
Yep.
And put them into the back of them.
Yeah.
And they had like an old receiver with a big dial.
Yeah.
And like the radio tuner thing that's like this long.
Dude, those things actually sound really good still.
Yeah. So we had one of those in our garage. I brought it into my room. Oh yeah, another weird thing about my life. My parents were country western store owners. So
okay, so you're a Korean whose parents owned a country western store who loved R&B in the 90s.
Yeah, and the first concert I ever went to was Reba McEntire.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And but anyway, there's a show called Fresh Off the Boat right now.
Yeah. I've seen a couple episodes.
And I joke around with people like, dude, they're ripping off my life. Like, they got to pay me royalties because it's about an Asian kid, and most of the actors in the show are Korean, but it's a Taiwanese family, I think. And the dad owns a chain of country western buffets.
Yeah.
And the kid is obsessed with hip hop music from the 90s. So anyway,
that is funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like me.
Dude.
Yeah. But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So my parents had these left over from their store because they'd upgrade their systems. They had the old systems in their garage. So I put that in my room. Cube 93.3 FM is like the R&B station of the 90s in Seattle.
Yeah.
And the song came on, and I just turned it up, and I could feel it in my bones. I could feel emotion. I could feel like this song,
Yeah.
My sister and my parents are probably wondering like, what in the world is he doing?
Dude, I so want to make fun of you for this, but the reality is like there was something there that was connecting to your heart,
Yeah, there was.
Like, how am I supposed to make fun of that,
And I think obviously the roots of R&B is in gospel music, and the roots of gospel music is in the spirituals, and from the spirituals we have blues and rock and roll and all that stuff.
Totally.
So there's always something there that's going to connect you to that place and of just emoting, like the spirituals. Very just wow, you could feel the emotions, and so so that's what I felt. And I remember the guy I was even seeing like, lady, I'm begging for you. I have no context. Dude, I have no context for what this means.
That's hilarious. You can't even say that with a straight face at this point either.
Yeah, Like, why is this guy begging? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Why is he so desperate and crying his heart out in a desert about a girl? I have no idea. But I could feel this song, you know.
Yeah.
So I felt the song, and from that place, I just thought it must be R&B music, it must be hip hop. So I listened to Tupac, and I listened to Tribe Called Quest, and to just a lot of music that I could feel the same feeling. And I think I just kept chasing this feeling. And then it came to a point where in college I heard Radiohead for the first time. Yeah. And then I could feel it in Radiohead. And then right around the time people introducing me to Delirious. And the Delirious was like even better because it wasn't just feeling this feeling, it was like worship. And, you know, it just connected with me in that way, in a deeper way, because it's for the Lord. And so they came out with that album Metamorphosis.
Oh, dude.
Remember that?
Oh my gosh, that album changed my life. Like music,
dude, that's crazy.
Dude, because when I listened to that album, that was one of the first albums I listened to where it captured like super creative rock type sounds.
Yeah,
with like lyrics that were connecting to me at a heart level that I wasn't used to. You know.
Yeah,
musically,
I felt like that really showcased Stu G's ability too.
Oh, dude, totally. Guitar work. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Stu G's the electric guitarist for that band, but yeah, he's phenomenal. But I feel like no one really knows how good he is, you know? Yeah. Because he's very good at playing to the song rather than just playing guitar. He plays to the song. But on Metamorphosis, he got to, you know, play to those songs, which are a lot bigger and more crazier. I
have his signature pedal from JHS, the Kilt. Is on my board because of that album.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I like serious. I'm not just exaggerating. That's actually why I have it on my board. It's because it's like,
wow,
yeah,
that's awesome, dude. Speaking of Kilt, do you know that in Nevada, where you are, they have a beer called Kilt Lifter?
No,
it's called Kilt Lifter. It's actually really good.
That is funny.
If you get a chance to. But you're gluten free, right? So you can't do that.
Well, I have gluten every once in a while, but I pay price for it.
Sorry, dude. So, anyways, off the topic of beer, San Diego ruined me for life, man. Living in San Diego, just a lot of good microbrewery down there. All right, microbrewery, Pizza Port. Oh yeah, Pizza Port.
Nice,
all right,
nice. All right.
So going back to
Metamorphosis came out. You heard that?
Yeah, and I remember like putting the CD in my CD player and just like sitting in front of it like a freak and like just listening, trying to absorb the music, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought I was alone sometimes because, you know, when you share a house with roommates and no one's home. So I would do that. And then my roommates would come home, which I wouldn't even realize they're home. And they'd walk in and they'd be like, what are you doing? You know? I'm like, oh, sorry.
Staring into a CD player.
Yeah. But that was my, people call it quiet time, but that was my quiet time, even though it was super loud. Yeah. That was my quiet time with God. I would just like be in his presence in the midst of chaotic, crazy music. And I feel like it doesn't matter if it's like Bach air, simple, floaty, classical music, or if it's Radiohead, crazy, chaotic, or Sigur Rós or whatever. It's just about connecting with that feeling of like, I don't know, of just emotion, you know? And so
I have a question about that. So obviously being a youth pastor, I deal with a lot of parents as well. Different conversations about music and influences, and obviously you listed off a bunch of secular bands, as well as like obviously Delirious and stuff, a worship band or Christian music and worship and stuff. What for you was, I guess, like, obviously I don't struggle with like listening to like Radiohead or that kind of stuff and feeling like all influenced in a negative way, you know, because some of their lyrics are kind of depressing, some of their songs, and so sometimes I'll switch it like if I don't want to feel depressed, you know, because there's like this element of songs that are super emotional can pull you in certain directions.
Yeah.
What was your process in that? Because obviously, like, you know what I mean? Like you obviously don't have a problem listening to those bands. I mean, even like listing off some of the R&B and really hip-hop guys that you were talking about. What?
I definitely have a filter. Like, you know, Philippians says, whatever is pure, lovely, noble, trustworthy, think about such things, you know?
Yeah.
when I listened to that music, it was noble and pure and lovely. Like I could see the artistry in it.
Okay.
It wasn't trying to connect with it on a worship level, you know, because when I'm connecting on a worship level, I'm not thinking about artistry, sadly. I'm just thinking of like Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't spiritual for me. It was more like connecting with it on an artist level of like, wow, like look at, like, for instance, since we're talking about Radiohead, let me think of a song. Look at that. There's a song called Everything in Its Right Place, right?
Okay.
Everything in its right place, right?
Okay.
And then, but what's the first thing you hear in that song? It's the chaos pad on his vocals. And it's right place, right?
That, like,
and then,
yeah.
And then the first lyric is, I woke up sucking on a lemon, right? So what's this song about? He's really saying through the song, everything is not in its right place.
Yeah.
But he's singing everything's in its right place. But what the song's really saying is everything is not in its right place, because the lyrics are all over the place.
Yeah.
There's chaos pad on his vocals. There's weird instruments, weird guitar playing happening at weird times in the song. So I saw that. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, he's really saying everything's not in its right place.
Yeah.
But he's saying everything is in its right place, but it's such a creative way of saying it's not, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's almost like appreciating it in terms of appreciating a work of art, or like some sort of creative expression for what it is. Like,
it's
dude,
like
this is
going to, it's like going to a museum and like seeing a painting and being like, wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, was it Van Gogh that was famous for starting the swirly stuff?
Van Gogh or Picasso? I'm not sure which swirly stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, like he would always draw suns like swirls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's Van Gogh. But I think when he first did it, people were like, what are you doing, dude? That is so weird. But that's like his trademark. And I feel like, just like when I go to a museum and I see that, I'm like, that is so cool. I can tell that it's like
totally
Van Gogh or whatever. I'm not an art connoisseur or anything, but I'm just saying, when I listen to music, I feel the same way. I'm like, whoa, like I could tell, like, this is Radiohead because of the way he's phrasing this or the way this is happening.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And there's another artist that really reminded me of Tom York from Radiohead named Rufus Wainwright.
Oh, totally.
And he did.
You told me about him years ago.
Yeah, he did theatrical pop music.
Yeah.
But his music was produced by Nigel Godrich, who's the same guy that produced Radiohead, or at least that album that I'm talking about. And him and Tom York have a very similar like tone in their voice.
Yeah.
Like except Rufus sounds a lot more happier. But, and gayer, you know, in that sense. Yeah. Literally gayer, but just jokes. Anyway, I didn't really connect so much with Rufus Wainwright's music because even though it was produced by the same producer and it was super amazing, like theatrical, the writing was really fun, but I did appreciate it. And I feel like when it comes to music, it's just more like appreciating it.
Yeah.
I just met Annie Clark, like, was it last year? Annie Clark is another artist called St. Vincent. That's her band name. And I got to talk with her a little bit. I told her like how much she's influenced me and inspired me. She even signed my guitar strap because I felt nerdy. I felt so nerdy. I was like,
that's awesome.
"Oh, it's Annie Clark, man." Annie used to tour with Sufjan Stevens, who's another guy that I really
I was
like.
just going to ask you about Sufjan Stevens because he's another one that's like, I feel like a little bit of a niche style, you know?
Yeah, and Sufjan used to tour with, or be a part of a group called the Danielson Family, and they're Christian, right? They're Christian artists, and I got to see Danielson Family when I was in college live.
Oh wow!
And I was impacted by them. I was like, "This is so amazing, so incredible."
It's so creative, out of the box in a way.
Yeah,
the type of instrumentation and the variety of instruments that they use.
Yeah,
you know, it's impressive. I mean, it's amazing, really is.
Yeah, so I think I'm drawn to that. I think I appreciate the gimmicky stuff when it comes to music, like, you know, all the YouTube culture of gimmicky music, you know, of let me do a cover of this, but like with the ukulele, you know,
totally,
or let me play this song with you, but through PVC pipes or something. Like, I appreciate the gimmicky, like, America's Got Talent culture we have today of music and YouTube culture, but what I connect with, I think, is the stuff is like, oh man, these guys, I feel like, are really saying something on their own, not just through their lyrics, but through their delivery. You know, I think Johnny Cash was that way, and other people who just, it's not even about their lyrics or their music; it was about the delivery. That's powerful. So, I think for those parents, I think I would just say is, you know, for me personally, I would say I don't know if I've trained myself, but there's music that I definitely stay away from and I don't listen to. I can list some of those to you too if you want. You might be surprised. But there's other ones that I just really appreciate and I really enjoy. I don't put those on my iPod playlist for my family. Obviously. That's just for me, just to like going to a museum. I wouldn't take my kids to see a certain museum if it had like a war scene in it, or like I don't know, something that's totally appropriate, but just not good for like a 7 or 9-year-old.
Totally.
Because they don't understand what's happening. You know?
It's almost like that maturity filter too.
So, so the same way, you know, like I probably wouldn't let my 7 or 9-year-old watch Fox News. You know, nothing against Fox News, but there's just some things on there that I wouldn't let them watch. And Fox News is supposed to be, I don't know, I guess age appropriate, right? But I would let my kids listen to NPR pretty much any day, you know? And so it's just weird. And or I let them watch 700 Club almost any day, you know? I don't know if you know, but 700 Club is so cool. But sometimes they show testimonies on the show where they dramatize. They have a dramatization of a traumatic thing that's happened to someone. And that is not okay for 7 or 9-year-old. They would be like, people do that kind of stuff, you know? So I think for everything, you kind of have to just, there's no label really of sacred, secular, what's safe, what's not safe. I'm just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff out there just because you kind of just have to like teach people, what God's shown you, and help them be empowered to make their own decisions and choices too.
So a couple things that I heard you throw out here to kind of summarize a little bit is, obviously you have a grid for that Philippians verse that says, you know, whatsoever things are pure, holy, acceptable. You know, think on these things. So if something that you're listening to is putting you in a mindset that you can't do that, then you should probably reconsider what you're listening to. Regardless of the source, regardless of whether they're labeled as a Christian band or whether they're labeled as a pop band or hip hop or whatever it is. Regardless of the label. And then the second thing of like learning to appreciate art for art, like stuff that is art that's creative, actually seeing the thumbprint of the creative God. You know what I mean? Like the fact that God is creative first and foremost, and anything that's creative is an expression of Him. In that context, whether or not it's directly worship, but it's just the fact that like, hey, it's creativity and it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and learning to appreciate that for what it is. You know?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I feel like people always complain about the church being behind the times, you know? But
like in terms of music and art and stuff like that, you're talking about.
But I don't think King David was behind the times, you know, and he was more like an innovator, pioneer of his time. And if you look at the early church and the Renaissance, they weren't behind the times; they were setting the culture, right? So something happened where we kind of lost the appreciation of art itself, being created by God, and God being obviously the ultimate artist, and artistry pointing to Him. Like the church was the center of the arts, where people were writing these songs and these beautiful things, or ballets, operas, whatever, for Him, right? All of that got shifted somehow. So I think we're going back there, you know. But I think one of the things was Chris Valentin once said, if you don't honor a prophet, you don't receive a prophet's reward.
Right.
And
I mean, that's a verse, though. That's not just a quote.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's actually Bible, you know?
Yeah, Jesus. That's Jesus, right? That's the red letters right there. So straight from the Bible, straight from Jesus, right? What he said. And he said that word reward. He looked into that reward, and it was grace, you know?
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me because he said that, and I realized, you know, if you can't honor something that you see of God, that you recognize is of God,
yeah, you
cannot open yourself up to receive that same grace for that you see.
Wow. So like
clarify.
If I see something and I can't recognize that
the Lord
thing is, I can't recognize the Lord in it, or I can't recognize the fact that it's a gift from God, that expression or something like that, then I'm not going to receive that grace in my life.
Yeah, because a gift is that in itself. It's grace. Okay. Yeah.
So if I'm like creatively speaking or whatever, kind of in the realm of music we're talking about and creative expression. Sure. Yeah. So if I see like a dance troupe perform and I just write it off as like, you know, like, hey, those, you know, dancing is not of God, or they're not dancing to a Christian song, or they're not doing this as a worship dance. It's just a performance dance. If I draw that barrier,
they didn't call it body worship.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So if I write it off and I'm basically just like, well, that's not as important as this other thing over here. I'm basically shutting off my life from receiving the grace that God intended for me to receive from that thing. Is that kind of what does that make sense?
Yeah. That's right on. Yeah.
So even like personal preference, like in music too, can that be?
Oh yeah. I feel that way strongly. Like, if you're complaining about the church being behind the times, it's because, by the time something finally hits the church, that's how long it took the church to accept the grace that was already on this thing 20 years ago.
Snap. That is a really interesting way of saying that. That is really good. Okay,
it took them a long time to see it.
So
but when they finally do, the cultures move forward, but they're still, you know.
Totally. Okay,
the church ends up getting pop music instead of art, if that makes sense. Because pop in itself means popular music.
Yeah.
So most of everything will sound like pop, because that's how long it'll take the church to get there. Is once it becomes pop, then somehow it'll become recognized. The grace on it will be recognized.
Like,
you know
hey,
what I mean?
This is a valid expression, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. Now it's valid. I saw it on America's Got Talent. So
yeah. Now, how do you? So then, if there's an element to pop music that makes it accessible for everyone. So if we're talking about worship music specifically, there's a side of worship music that it's helpful that it has pop influences because it makes it accessible for other people to hear easily, sing easily, engage in easily. Right? Yeah. So how do you marry that line of like, hey, I'm trying to gather as many people as possible to worship God or connect people and facilitate an encounter with God's presence. How do you do that and still press the bounds of creativity that it doesn't alienate people that are there, whether in the audience or whether in a home group or whether it's a big church with a couple hundred people, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's when you cross the line of you cross into the conversation of how do you be a worship leader, right?
Okay.
How to lead people into a place.
So you're saying that line is separate from just the music style.
Yeah, I would say so, because when you're at a museum, you're just appreciating the artistry you see.
Yeah.
And you, if you're with a bunch of other artists, you guys are both being inspired. You value something. You open yourself up to the grace of God that's on it.
Yeah.
You realize it's from the Lord.
Yeah.
And you kind of that's just how life was supposed to be, right?
Totally.
But if you're going to bring it into what we know as a church environment, that's going to change it in the sense of when you're in a museum, you're not like telling people, okay, so let's go encounter God right now, you know?
Yeah.
And let's encounter God right now through the Van Gogh exhibit. The Van Gogh exhibit, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, how do we do that? You know?
Yeah.
Like, how do we encounter God through the Van Gogh exhibit? Are you crazy? What are you talking about? It's cool. I'll explain it all to you. I'll give you the art history about it, and this is how you'll do it. Even still, you'll lose like 80% of them, right?
Yeah.
You only grab the 20% that are artists or whatever.
Yeah.
So, from what you're talking about, I would say, yeah, it would be like, no, you would start, either finding a painting that directly works, or you would start making your own paintings that somehow are still you and still capture these artistic stuff that God's inspiring you with, but you're doing it in a way that you're leading people, like you're being like a shepherd. You're leading them to that place.
Yeah.
You're not saying, hey, I got here, get here with me.
Yeah.
You're saying, where are you at? Let me figure out how to get you to this place that I think is amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And obviously that place that you think is amazing can't be about you and your own vision to be an artist. It has to be the Holy Spirit
Totally
convicting you about this. Like, I want you to take them here.
Yeah.
Because really God might just want you to take them to, Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises.
Totally.
I'm so glad you're in my life. Right. So, so it's never about art being the God or being the end and goal of all things.
Yeah.
But it's just a part of life that God made, and he wants us to enjoy, and he wants us to be open to receive the same grace that we see happening in the world.
Yeah.
He wants his church to thrive in that too, you know?
Totally.
And not just us to call it secular. Oh, well, that's secular, so it's more better or more creative, more fresh, more cool. But, you know, we're at church. We can't really be cool. I don't think he ever wanted that to happen, but it's kind of what has happened. So,
hey, Joe, can I just push pause for just a second?
Yeah. All right,
we're back. Sorry about that.
No,
Dude, okay,
no,
so what you're saying. Go ahead. We're talking about kind of worship leading people into that encounter.
Another person that we both appreciate that I got to know through the years a little bit is a guy named Kevin Prosh, and he was like a pioneer in the 80s, right? With worship music and stuff.
I'm trying to remember. I'm sure he was doing stuff in the 80s. I know he got super popular in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah. And he said when he was around, drums were of the devil. Like, you can't have a drum set in church.
Yeah.
But then drums showed up in church. And then people said having colored lights and fog machines and stuff like that is of the devil. Like, that's just satanic. Don't do that. But then later on it became acceptable.
Yeah.
But he's like, like, at what point do we just, how are we so quick to jump to saying that something is just bad,
Yeah.
And at what point do you where do you find it in the Bible? And he said, look in the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
It talks about colors of rainbows, flashes of thunder, cloud and smoke, It's talking about the scene of worship in heaven, and I was just inspired by that, I'm just thinking we shouldn't be trying to follow, we shouldn't be looking at this world to set the tempo for worship.
Yeah.
At the same time, we shouldn't be afraid of what we're seeing in this world and thinking that just because it's not in the church, that means it's demonic,
Yeah. See,
we should look at
that's interesting that you're kind of right. I don't remember hearing Kevin Prosh talk about that, but my own personal journey where, there was a long season where I was, I would say, frustrated with kind of worship and music in the church, kind of on two levels. One, feeling like it wasn't creative enough.
Yeah.
And then two, feeling like, man, there's so many places where it just feels like a concert. There's these crazy lights.
Yeah.
There's these, people weren't necessarily doing lasers at the time, but there was lights and fog and, stuff. And I was doing this study on worship. I was actually having to preach at a church about it. And I started just rereading that whole passage in Revelation. And there was something that shifted in my heart where I realized there's not a single light display, fog machine, laser show that will ever compete with what is actually going on in heaven around the throne.
It's so good. So good. Yeah.
And I realized that, like, really, for me, the motivation of, hey, are we trying to make an awesome show and impress people? Or are we being creative and creating an environment that leads people into an encounter with God?
Exactly.
And if that's our standard, pretty much, dude, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like if we can get there, you measure the heart of a man rather than the sound, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what it's like. You can do something super simple.
You hear the sound. Yeah, it could be simple or complex, but you listen to the person's story of why he wrote the song, where he's coming from, what he's trying to do, right?
Yeah.
You might not agree with it.
Yeah.
He or she, obviously. You might not agree with this guy or girl who's doing it,
Totally.
but you honor what this person's doing.
Yeah.
You know, in Revelation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about it. I was just thinking, like, last week, somebody said, one of my friends said, "Hey guys, it doesn't just have to be Bethel, Hillsong, Jesus Culture. There's other music out there. You know, there's gospel music. There's other churches that are doing original stuff. Like, let's be open to just be the body of Christ and not try to, like, do this thing, monopolize everything into just being worship, right?" So I told him, like, yeah, like, I agree. Like, when you go to heaven, can you imagine someone in heaven being like this? Dude, why aren't you worshiping? This isn't really my style. Like,
I don't really connect with this style of music.
This is like flamenco, like zydeco. Like, this like sounds like from Louisiana, dude. I'm like West Coaster. I'm like, I don't know. That's not really me, you know. So
Totally.
that's not going to be happening.
Yeah,
everyone's going to be on their faces, you know.
Yeah.
Why? Because of Jesus. What will it sound like? I don't think we have any idea.
Yeah.
But I feel like where it should come from is from this place of response. Like, I am just responding in adoration, in enthusiasm, in exuberance, and whatever adjective you can throw in there.
Yeah.
Of just, I can't contain this.
Totally.
I need to respond and express to the Lord, you know, His worth, and who He is.
Yep.
And whatever that sounds like,
I
don't think it's going to matter in heaven. It's going to be about what we're doing that matters.
Totally.
It's going to be about not how we're doing it, but who we're doing it for.
Totally.
What are we doing? We're just trying to love on Jesus and just tell Him, because we can't help but tell Him, you are just so holy.
Yeah.
There's no one like you. You know, like nothing. How can I say that again? I don't know, but I gotta keep saying it for all eternity.
Yeah.
There's nothing like you. There's no one like you. You alone are God. You know. So I feel like if we can get to that place, if we can recognize, I don't know if you have to call it death metal, but if you can recognize death metal or
life metal,
John Tesh, New Agey, pop, jazz stuff, or what we hear now, which is like Nashville pop, right? In Christian radio, or U2 and Coldplay stuff that we hear in Jesus Culture, Bethel, whatever, you know. If we can recognize in all of that, people are just trying to just encounter God. I think that's it. You know, for some reason, people find it easier with other stuff, but that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because even in that context, when you talk about art bringing glory or honor back to its creator, it even for me really set me free from, I don't know, I grew up in a church culture where there's a lot of like conversation or kind of like warning, I guess, you know, like, hey, make sure you're not in a performance spirit, you know, make sure that you're worshiping and not performing, you know, and you'd hear people, you know, like, oh, I feel convicted. You just, you know, in that performance spirit. And do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm Asian, dude. I hear that a lot.
So, and it's this constant thing back and forth. And I realized that if I truly understood who my creator was, that even if I was just only performing, let's just say worst case scenario, I'm on stage and I start playing guitar and I'm only performing and I am just trying to do a guitar solo that's just awesome and just, I'm screaming this guitar solo, I'm performing.
Yeah.
That even in that, if someone recognizes who created me, I'm actually not robbing glory from God, even in only performing, because if I'm his creation, no matter the better I sound, the more glory it brings back to God, even if I'm just trying to perform. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like this mind thing that once I got, dude, I stopped worrying about it. And I'd get into environments, and what it did was it actually set me free from trying to perform. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because I realized that I didn't have to be afraid of performing.
Because you are performing more when you're trying not to perform.
Totally. It was like this. It doesn't make sense to say it like that, but that's exactly what was going on. You know?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what will happen. It's like in college, around the Asian American circles, what was popular were people saying things like, it's all for his glory.
Totally.
It's all for his glory.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's all for his glory.
It's not me. It's just for his glory.
It's not me. And you know what songs were big? Songs that were talk about you being like a worm. Like, I am filled, totally depraved, absolutely,
totally.
You know, barren land, you know, like, I am this horrible person, you know, but God is amazing, you know. But what was their goal? Their goal was not to be prideful. They became more prideful because they focused more on themselves. It's like weird.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to not be prideful, so I'm going to talk about myself right now in so many ways.
Talk about how little I am right now.
How little I am. No. I am more little than even that, you know? But I feel like I feel like true humility is just seeing the face of God.
Yeah.
You know? It's in the light of his glory, dude, we will be humbled. We will know, wow, God, you are, you're worthy. You're amazing, and I need you. I remember this one pastor. He wasn't really a pastor. He was, I don't know. He had stuff going on, but every day he'd just accuse me of pride.
Wow,
you're so prideful, Joe. You have no anointing on your life. You're a horrible person.
That just doesn't make sense, even knowing you in the least, how that could happen.
But I heard this like every week. You know, if I even like lightly played my guitar in a room, because I lived at one point near a church office. He would close his office door because he thought I was showing off, and it was just like, I'm not showing off. I'm just playing my guitar. So I lived in this perpetual fear of, I have to show this guy I'm not prideful, right?
Yeah.
And it came to a point where I just told him, you know what? I'm not going to beat my chest in prayer and do all these things that other people are doing, saying, I'm so prideful, I'm such a sinner. Like, you know what? You know how I know that I'm not dealing with how I'm working on my pride? He goes, what? I go, I just need God. That's it. Like, I just know that I need him. Yeah. I might not beat my chest and say I'm a sinner and I'm filth. I feel like, why would I have to do that? Like, I just know I need the Lord. Like, I can't do anything that good without him. You know, and he goes, all right, but I feel like in the church culture, not just in Asian American culture, that's for some reason still kind of there. And even with someone like Lincoln Brewster, who's a phenomenal guitarist.
Oh, totally.
I think people still feel uncomfortable, even with someone like him who's totally Christian pop. Yeah, who's totally has validated himself amongst the really strict Christian evangelicals. That he's not prideful, whatever judging panel there is there about that. Even still, I think people feel uncomfortable when he whips out a guitar solo. Yeah. You know, what's happening right now? Oh, hey, what's Lincoln doing? Yeah, totally. Where are the words? Well, we're just watching him play guitar right now. What is happening? Yeah. But yeah, I hope we can mature even in that area of not being the pride police, you know, in the church. And I love what Bob Jones said, the late Bob Jones. He said, false humility is more dangerous than pride because God can correct pride, but he can't correct false humility.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. And that always impacted me.
Man.
Because if you're prideful, God can correct it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's prideful. Maybe don't do that. In Proverbs.
Maybe don't be prideful.
Yeah. In Proverbs, pride goes before a downfall. How did that work out for you? Yeah, it doesn't really work out to you like that, right? Yeah.
Totally.
It's correctable, right? You can correct it.
Yeah.
What's false humility? Oh, no, it's not me. It's the Lord.
You know what's funny
Hey,
about
good job. Good job today, Dustin. The worship was awesome. Oh, no. It wasn't me. It was all Jesus.
It was Jesus.
Not me.
Don't tell me good job. Don't tell me thank you. You know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a horrible person. I'm not that good at guitar. What guitar solo? Oh, that wasn't that good. No, that wasn't that good at all. Yeah, no, I'm not that good. I'm just so humble right now. I'm going to tell you how I'm just bad at things, and then you'll know that I'm humble. And God can't correct that because you're lost in a jumble of pretense. You know, it's like the Pharisees. The Pharisees were maybe one of the most prideful people, but they also appeared as religious and pious and all those things. Yeah, as humble.
It's interesting too because that false humility really is a deception. You know, I love like I think it's Chris Valadin that would always say like the nature of deception is that you don't know you're deceived. If you know you're deceived, it's just the spirit of stupid, you know? Like,
yeah, that's so funny.
It's like the same thing, you know, like false humility. It's, you know, God can't correct it because you don't know, you know, it's like you don't even realize what's going on.
Yeah.
You know,
I love what Chris Valentin said too. Do you remember this? He said, he once told a worship leader, hey, great job today.
Oh, yeah.
Worship leader, oh no, it wasn't me. It was all God. Yeah. And he goes, well, it wasn't that good.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude, just receive a compliment.
Totally. You know? That's so funny. I just, it's interesting too, you know, talking about, kind of going back a little bit where you're talking about sound and getting your own sound and being creative and feeling stretched and that pedal hunt for tone. I mean, obviously guitarists talk about, you know, or musicians in general will talk about that, you know, hunt for tone.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, you know, playing on a worship team, I kind of have to thread the line between almost like a role of like a session guitarist where I'm being asked to play a certain thing a certain way and kind of capture a bit of a sound and then still trying to be true to myself. In tone and in my own fun. And so I do both, you know, like I try to find a balance between both things.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the more the better job that I do in terms of not focusing on do I sound just like the album or do I sound just like this guitarist, but finding sounds that I connect to and then still like, okay, I need to play this part. And this part maybe uses a reverse delay, or this part uses this particular sound, you know. And so you know they're saying, "Hey, can you play this part?" Oh yeah, totally. I'll learn that part. I'll do that. It's interesting that that it comes. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But when I've been focused on playing just like someone else or having a sound just like someone else, I usually fall way farther short. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like my inability to do that. Where when I am kind of pursuing those things that connect to my heart, but then still, hey, I'm going to do a good job as a musician in this context. How much more effective I am, and how much more it creates an atmosphere of worship versus performance. You know,
that's so good. So good.
Like, hey, this is a piece that I carry. You know, and I'm going to.
And if you're ever in a position to teach that to a worship team, you should, because that's a big thing right there. Because, you know, when you're on a worship team, you're in a servant role. Like you're not there to be served, to have a platform to play your music or whatever. Not that, I don't know. I don't think, hopefully no one does that. But you're there to serve the vision of whoever's in charge. It's the senior pastor, then it's the worship pastor, worship leader, whatever he's thinking. So you're always going to be serving what they want. And so I think that's the hard part, is because they're going to be like, I want you to play Jeffrey Kunde. Is that how you say his name?
Kunde? I don't actually know how to say his last name. Kunde.
I
always just said it Kunde, but
I haven't talked to him in years, but I always still feel bad because he needed to borrow my volume pedal way back when, but I was working and I couldn't figure out how to get my volume pedal to him. And I still feel guilty about that. That just shows the kind of person I am, I guess. But Jeffrey's awesome. But anyway, he plays some crazy, cool, good guitar parts. And so say a worship leader asks you to play, I want you to play Jeffrey's parts on these songs. Yeah, I feel like to serve them, you would want to practice that at home. Yeah. Try your best to get it down. But at some point, you'll probably fall short if you're not that good, or if you're just learning, or even if you're super good. You're not Jeffrey. You can't, especially that one song. I heard one guitar part he did once. I was like, that is like one of the coolest guitar parts for a worship song I've ever heard. And it was the one that goes.
Oh, it's super fast. I know what you're talking about.
The Live in Chicago one or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, what church is going to be able to pull that off, right? Not many. I know that I would have to practice that part and even still be super nervous to play that, right?
Yeah.
On a Sunday. But anyway, I would say, like, do your best, figure out where your limit's at, show that to the worship leader, say, this is kind of what I've come up with, because I can't do what that person's doing. Or maybe even if I did, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And at that point, you just work with that person in charge and figure out, and they're like, oh, I love that. That's great. Then that's good. And I feel like that's mission accomplished. And like, because it's for the Lord. It's not unto man.
Yeah.
But you know that God's put these people in charge and you're going to serve them, right?
Yeah.
That's totally different than what you're saying, like trying to be exactly like this guy's part.
Totally.
Because then at that point, you're not coming from a place of empowerment to serve the Lord and serve them. I think it's like stress, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's
stress
like
and performance in that way.
Major stress.
Yeah.
My acceptance, my reward or definition of success lies if I can hit this part right or not. You know?
Totally.
Don't mess it up.
Yeah.
Or else they're gonna schedule different worship guitars. That's not besides you. You know, you're gonna lose this cool opportunity to serve God, right? So I think that will cause stress. And I made Brian Johnson upset so many times because of this. He would hear me play a part and he'd be like, "Oh my goodness, dude, can you record that?" I'm like, "I don't remember what I played." He's like, "What?" I go, "I'm so sorry, dude. I was just in the moment." He's like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
And so they started recording worship live. And then even when they recorded live, okay, Joe, this is it. Play that. I go, I can't. How did I do that?
I'm sorry. I don't even know what I played.
I'll try to play it. And
that's funny.
I just didn't fit that mold, but people do fit that mold. I met the guy who builds Veritas guitars.
Yeah.
And and I never played a Veritas guitar. And he was like explaining to me who his clients were, Bethel Church and all these people. Yeah. I was like, that's so cool, you know. And so I picked up. Have you ever played a Veritas before?
Just not even plugged in live. My buddy has one here that plays here at the church, and so I've kind of like just held it and strummed it, but I haven't actually played it live. So
I plugged it in and I played it. And guess what it sounded like?
Well,
sound like Bethel music. I've never been able to plug a guitar into something before and be like, I sound like Jesus culture, or I sound like Bethel music. But
that's funny.
I can't explain it. I would never be able to use that guitar for anything else. I felt like this would be my Bethel music or Jesus culture guitar, dude. Like, this is what people buy if they want to sound like Bethel music or Jesus culture, which is cool.
Yeah, it's
but
not
there's
bad.
definitely guitarists out there that are passionate about that and probably should do that because that's how God made them to be.
Yeah,
you know. But then there's people like you maybe who want to find their own sound and be creative.
Yeah.
I think like Bill Johnson once told me, like, you have to find that somewhere outside the church if that's not what that church is doing.
Yeah.
And Bill had a really good firm talk with me once where he told me
Bill
that.
Johnson of Bethel Church, right, in Reading you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Papa Bill. I love Bill and Benny. And I wish I could talk to them more often, but I don't really get a chance to. But anyway, Bill said to me once, Joe, like, you know, that's what CDs are for, like personal albums, to really capture that expression that's you, an individual. But when it comes to coming into the church, like, it really is about submitting to whoever's there, what their vision is.
Yeah.
And if what you desire, what their thing doesn't match, then you just have to know, like, you're going to have to find these other places for it. And I thought that was really wise.
Yeah.
You know, because if you don't say it like that, there, two people will always be disappointed.
Yeah.
One, the person in charge who has the vision,
Mm-hmm.
and the artist who's wondering why they're not feeling fulfilled, if that's where they find fulfillment, you know.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to work together and submit to one another in reverence for Christ, right?
Yeah, and it's not one is better than the other. It's not like a devaluing of you for wanting to do albums or play in a different environment.
Exactly.
Or devaluing the church because, hey, oh man, to play at this church I have to sound like this or I have to play this style.
Exactly.
It's really it's not. Both have extreme value, a high level of value, you know?
Yeah, which ultimately is why I walked away from Bethel and Jews culture, you know. That was hard, and people weren't happy about that. And why? Because I love them. They love me. We're friends.
Yeah.
But it was just because of that. It's like, you know, I just don't fit this, but other people will. And they have, like, I don't think Joel Kilmer fit it either.
Yeah.
And Joel's my buddy. And
dude, I love Joel, man. I miss him so much.
But we were just a part of an era where it was heading that direction, and other people did fit it. I remember Brandon Aronson, who's another good friends of ours.
Oh, yeah. Bass player for Jesus Culture.
Yeah, when he knew I was exiting, he said, "Joe, you're like called to do like other stuff, man. That's all that's really happening. Like you're supposed to be like doing like just just stuff with bands or like in the secular world." I think he was just having a hard time articulating what exactly, but I knew what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way.
Yeah.
It wasn't like one's better than the other. It's just,
I
don't fit this, but these other people fit it amazingly well, and they're phenomenal. Like I have so much respect for them, you know? So
it's interesting too, like talking about playing music in a church or in a church context sometimes, or as a musician, you know, varying levels of skill. You know, I'm sure you've experienced this where you're going to play somewhere and there's a band there or something, and there's varying skill levels depending on a church. And there's people that I play with that try so. By
the way, I probably should leave in like 5 minutes.
Oh,
I gotta get ready.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
sorry.
No, that's okay. We've been going for a while. Jeez.
2 hours. I've been going for 2 hours.
For real?
For 2 hours.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. 2 hours.
You know why? It's because it's like partly catching up, and because we like hanging out with each other.
I know.
It's not like I'm not like a random dude that you're interviewing. We're like good friends. So,
dude, I miss you so much, bro.
I miss you too. Please filter and edit a lot of this so it's not so long.
Dude, no. This is my podcast tagline is unfiltered and unedited.
Oh no!
I should have told you before we started.
Yeah,
I'll give people some minute marks to jump so they don't have to feel like they have to wade through different stuff if they're not interested.
I feel bad for people's attention spans.
Really quick. Okay, so playing with different people at different skill levels, right? You probably have this all the time where, you know, and people will try so hard to play it just like the album or just like something that that individual worship expression or that worship set becomes so not rigid in the sense people are always afraid of playing it like the album because they're afraid that what if the Holy Spirit leads a different direction or something like that.
Exactly.
And that's legitimate. That's fine. But my biggest struggle with people that are caught up in playing it just like the album is more about that there's a certain sense of fluidity that gets lost. Not that like they're not able to flow with the Holy Spirit, but that we're not playing with a drummer, a percussionist, and another backup drummer, a bass player, 3 guitarists, 2 acoustic guitarists, 4 keyboardists, right?
Sure.
There's so much sonic bass that gets covered in most albums, live albums, recordings, whatever. That really, what I've found is about capturing something that you talked about earlier, but capturing the emotion and the dynamic of what is supposed to be achieved by a specific part. Does that make sense?
And you're really good at that, by the way.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to defer. I'm not going to play the false humility card. I'll say thank you because that's actually one of my goals in music. But I actually got this from you. Somewhat from
you hunt those moments, man, and you capitalize on them.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
No.
No, you're so good at that, bro.
Dude, I was going to say, that's one of the things I actually got from playing with you.
Thanks, man.
Is actually learning how to hear a dynamic from a recording, or maybe the drum part, we're not going to play it exactly, but it's going to carry the same emotional expression and dynamic in the song, if that makes sense. So that the same kind of, not goal, but same expression or create, like what you're trying to achieve by doing the song is still achieved, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you're playing with acoustic
totally
style or 3 people or a full band, it doesn't matter, you know?
I feel like, too, you also want to, just like you're saying, you want to listen to the Holy Spirit. That's always number one, right? And you also want to, Ephesians says, to sing to each other with spiritual songs, right?
Mm-hmm. Is that how you sing to your wife, with spiritual songs?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, I don't know why I said that.
We're so spiritual around here. No, it says to speak. It says to speak to one another through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
To speak. And I feel like, psalms, hymns, spiritual songs. Psalms, literal scripture. Right? Hymns are songs that we make, right? Like songs that we write. Spiritual songs, those songs inspired by the Holy Spirit, right? Prophetic, spontaneous songs. I feel like in a church, Sunday morning, Friday night, whatever time you're gathering with people, body of Christ, obviously not a building, you really want to listen to the Holy Spirit, and then you want to find out, what language am I to speak to these people in through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs,
That's really cool. That's a really cool way of describing that.
So when I was in Ocean Beach, San Diego, it's surf town, right?
Totally.
And no one really listens to the radio unless they're driving to work, and not many people drive to work. They skateboard or they ride their bikes, or if they're driving, they're listening to news radio or something, right?
Right.
We didn't have a big K-Love culture there, And so what do they listen to? What are they surrounded with? They're surrounded with reggae music. They're surrounded with ska, and all that stuff. And so when I was doing worship songs, if my goal was to give them the most, I guess, the best adaptation of a recorded song, it wouldn't have worked. They probably wouldn't have appreciated it. Maybe they would have just been like, "Whoa, that was wonderful. Thank you for that performance."
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really be speaking to them through a psalm and a hymn and a spiritual song. I'd be more like performing for them.
Right.
And when my heart was to be a worship leader, I would end up performing, because I'd be practicing with the band. We have to really make sure we nail every single part in this recording and make it true to the, I would lose them and their opportunity to worship. Right. So what ended up happening, we ended up singing, like, I think you remember Andrew for Joe's song, I See Strongholds Falling Down.
Yeah.
I see strong. So we ended up doing that one. That one did so well there.
That's awesome.
But would I have ever picked that song? Me. That's not really me.
Yeah, totally.
But that was the way I knew how to speak to them, through a hymn. Wow. Right? And then there's a song by Andy Squires called what's that song called?
Is it Cherry Blossoms?
Oh no, that's another one of his songs. We sing Cherry Blossoms there. That went really well.
Yeah, such a good song.
But we sing his song Love Supreme.
Okay, yeah.
And we'd always joke because it sounded like a pizza, right?
Totally, or Taco Bell.
Yeah, we say we're doing the Domino's. We're doing the Domino's song. Right? We're doing
Love Supreme.
I have a fever. I'm hungry. I need to order some Love Supreme. Right? So, but even Love Supreme, I don't know why, but I heard the rhythm of the song. Mm-hmm. The song is like I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
So I told the drummer to go kick, 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 crack, kick, kick, crack, right? Or like a rim shot, kick, 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 kick. And we just kind of made it more like this type of style. And then when the chorus comes in, we go halftime. Love, I'm not going to sing it over the podcast, and, but that became like a huge song at that church.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I had to figure out, am I going to really try to emulate exactly like Andy Squires recording, or am I going to try to speak to them through a psalm, a hymn, a spiritual song? So I feel like that's a big part of a worship leader is working with the Holy Spirit and figuring out how to speak to your congregation, how to speak to those that you're leading. If I wasn't in Ocean Beach, I probably would not have done that. But because I was there, that's what I found myself doing, So
that's really
you're in Novato.
Yeah,
you're in Novato, and your dynamic's completely different.
Totally.
So maybe they do want Sacramento. That's pretty close by. Maybe they want Sacramento worship. They want Jesus culture.
Yeah.
they want Lincoln Brewster. They want Sacramento worship.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you have to just kind of have to, help them, speak to them.
Yeah, it really. I like how you say it, because a buddy of mine who's a management guy, degree in management, and he works for Kaiser and stuff. But we had a conversation years ago, and he told me, he's like, Dustin, communication is based on the listener. And I'm like,
wow,
what does that mean? And he's like, well, we always think about communication as we're trying to tell, you're trying to, as a listener, you're trying to learn how to understand someone. He goes, but really the weight of communication rests on the shoulders of the person talking based on the listener. So I need to speak a language that you understand. I need to learn your language and speak that language, which is kind of what you're describing almost in leading worship, where I need to know the language of where I'm at, and I need to speak that language.
Yeah. And that will keep you on your knees, man. Yeah. That'll keep you dependent on the Lord.
Totally.
It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to pastor a congregation than to perform for a congregation.
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to do a checklist than to do life with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good place to end, man.
It's a lot easier to do a checklist with Jesus than to do life with Jesus.
Yeah. No, that's totally, that is religion too. That's the idea of religion outside of relationship with God, Dude.
The religious spirit is nasty, man. It's a white snake. That's the latest picture of what the religious spirit looks like in Japan. No jokes. It really is. It looks pure.
Yeah.
It looks holy, but it's a snake.
Yeah.
It's a snake. You have to call a spade for what a spade is. It's still a snake.
Yeah.
It's poisonous. It might seem noble. It might seem right. It's yucky. Dude. Yeah. 2 Corinthians talks about the God of this world blinding people, right? From the power of God. I think the religious spirit, it blinds us from the power of God. It really is when you get down to it. Anyways,
awesome. Okay.
I'm rambling.
No, dude, this is a good place to end, man. I know you got to go. I think I saw your wife giving me the eye.
Be late. Yeah,
dude, I'm sorry. I know we could spend a lot more time talking. What we'll do is we'll have a part 2. We'll have you back on after a while. Jump back into some, dude. So we could talk. I want to do one where we just talk about guitar pedals and guitars.
Let's do it. Let's just talk. Let's just do this as part 1, and if people are actually interested, maybe we'll do a part 2. I don't want to take up your so much of your time, dude. This is a long time. Christina says hi, by the way.
Oh, tell her hi for us. I know my wife would want to be saying hi if she knew I was talking to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we love you guys a lot.
You too, man. All right, man. You take care. You have a great day at work.
You too. Enjoy Novato. Now say hi to Caleb for us and his family.
I will for sure. All right, man. Peace out. All right. Thanks once again to Joe Choi for being here with us today. Hey, listen, if you like what you're listening to, do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button. Rate us. Leave a review on iTunes. That would be super awesome. I'd love that. I love reading that. If you have any questions or guests you want on the show, hit me up on social media. Dustin Box on Twitter. Dustin Savannah on Instagram. Get in touch. Leave me some questions. What do you want to hear from? Who do you want me to talk to? It'd be awesome. Yeah, and obviously, man, we really believe in what we're doing here. We want the word to get out there. We want these conversations to touch people's lives where they're at. So hit the share button. Share it with your friends. Be generous. Come on now. All right. Listen, I realize that's a shameless plug. I want you to get out of here. I got to get out of here. You have a wonderful day, and stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.